young professionals and young people can find something in Rotary that makes so much sense for their existence.
One of my goals, and I think one of the goals of just younger people in general as we get into organizations like this, is to kind of diversify it.
There are a lot of people who have a lot to offer, but don't know an outlet for it, don't know where to put it, and this gives you access to everything.
I was just amazed at everything Rotary did and how much bigger than it was than what I thought it was, and so I wanted to join. I wanted to be a part of that.
You know, we laugh. It's a bunch of old guys that get together for lunch every week, and it's the furthest thing from that.
It's so much more than I originally thought it was. It wasn't just about making friends. It was about going out on a random Friday morning and helping to build a barn.
You know, we tend to be a little compartmentalized in our lives, and sometimes we forget people in our community who need help.
The face-to-face, the personal engagement with individuals and in the community is, you can't find that or replicate that elsewhere.
Whether we come from one walk of life or another, it transcends all of that because we come together in the name of service.
As a young professional, I just think it's one of the best things I could possibly have done.
Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Tulsa on this fine Wednesday, hot and humid Wednesday afternoon. We always start our meetings with an invocation and a little singing and the Pledge of Allegiance, so I would like to have Vic Morgan come up to lead us with our invocation, our song, and then the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Phil Armstrong, and then Kathy Gurrell will introduce our visitors. Vic?
Please pray with me. God, source of all freedom, though tarnished by recent tragedies and harsh political rhetoric, this season is still bright with the memory of those who have declared that life and liberty are your gift to every human being. Help us to continue a good work begun long ago. Make our vision clear and our will strong. That only in human solidarity will we find liberty, and justice only in the honor that belongs to every life on earth. Turn our hearts toward the family of nations, to understand the ways of others, to offer friendship and embrace tolerance, to find safety only in the common good of all. Amen.
America the Beautiful today. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains' majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to the Rotary Club of Tulsa. Will you join me in welcoming the following guests and their host that has brought them? And if you'll stand and wait for the applause at the end. Tim Lyons is hosting Jerry Hoopert. Matt Hill is hosting Jeff Bertram. Doug Phillips is the friend and guest of George Shahadi. Andy Escobar has brought several guests, Ling Ben Liu, Chelsea Brewer, Brittany Holmes, Stephen Baker is the guest of Kip Lycum. Jennifer Sterling is the guest of Royal Ames. James Eaton is the guest of Elaine Dishman. Mary Staton is hosted by Donna Crane. Donna Crane is the visitor. of Mary Staton, and Katie Johnson has brought Karen Lawhon. Lynette Potter is hosting Jamie Kidder. Tom Wolf has brought several guests, if you'll stand. Angela Wells, Steve Allen, Bert Rodriguez, and Robert Warren Key. Also, Scott Ingold. Scott is hosting Dr. Rick Stearns. And Mike Neal is hosting Meg Ryan. And we have one more. Michael McCoy is the guest of John Crouch. Let's give these folks a hand. I regret to tell you there are no visiting Rotarians, but we're happy to have all of the guests. Please come back. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy, and thank you all your guests for being here. We're glad to have you, and we hope we put on a good show. We like to start our programs by reminding our Rotarians and also inviting our guests to some upcoming programs down the road. So be on the lookout next week. R.C. Davis will be here. And as I've told you in weeks past, he is a professor at the University of Oklahoma. He runs World Literature Today, and he also hosts a TV show called Current Conversations. And our Rotarian of the Day will be our Rotaract president, Dr. Brooke Estevez. And then on June 29th is the Presidential Roast, otherwise known as Steak Day. I did learn from Brad Anthematten this week that the steaks will be coming from Burn Cove this year. So, not that they could possibly be better than Petty's steaks, but that's where they're coming from. So, don't forget, sign up. The little sheets on your table look like this. We encourage you to sign up and let us know how many guests you'll be bringing on June 29th, Steak Day. We need to make sure there's plenty of meat here for everyone. And then finally, I'll remind you that the inauguration of our President-elect John Raines will be the week after that on July the 6th. So mark your calendars and make sure to be at those programs. A reminder of our committee meetings today. The Rotary Youth Exchange Scholarship Committee will meet in room 234, and the IBA Awards Committee will meet in room 232. So if you are on those committees or have an interest, I encourage you to attend those meetings. Alicia, do you want to talk a bit about our sponsors?
It's a lively crowd.
It is.
Because I'm back. Is that what it is?
The buzz is for you, I'm sure.
Sure, I'm sure it is. Our sponsors today, Mark Graham with the United Way. We rely heavily on our sponsors. We appreciate your sponsorship and support of the Rotary Club. If you have any questions about sponsorship for the next 2 weeks, you can see me or Matt Moritor. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Alicia. Well, it's a special time every year when we get to recognize those in our club that have earned our club's highest honor, which is called the James G. Sade Service Above Self and Then Some Award. In 1977, our club came up with a special award to give to those Rotarians whose service above self over a period of time has exceeded even Rotary's very high standards. The award is always based on a body of work, unselfish acts of service to the club and to the community over a period of time that give the 6 avenues of service in Rotary a deeper meaning. Any member may submit a nomination to the Long Range Planning Committee, who in turn recommends the individual to the Board of Directors. In 36 years, the award has been presented just 18 times, and those 18 individuals are listed on the cards at your table. They look like this, if you'd like to look at them. They've done so much, we couldn't possibly summarize it all in the meeting today. Several of those are present today. Many of them are still alive, and I'd like to take a moment to tell a little bit about those prior recipients of our club's highest award who are here. So, our prior winners, as I introduce you, I'll ask you to stand for a moment. I'll ask the crowd to hold their applause until I introduce all of our prior winners. But first, though, to understand more about the award, let me tell you about James G. Sade, for whom the award is named. Jimmy, as he was called, was no less than a legendary Rotarian. He served as president in 1976-1977. He launched our first camp enterprise. He portrayed John Philip Sousa and performing in Sousa-style concerts at the Mabee Center with all the proceeds going to the Rotary Club of Tulsa Foundation. He chaired the club's 75th anniversary celebration and served as a Rotary mentor to many members who went on to serve the club greatly and the district. He was the father of Rotarian Bob Sade, who was the club president in 2001-2002. Now, to recognize those previous winners who are here with us today, first, Jean Martin. Jean was awarded our highest honor in 1999. Jean, some people don't know you. We need to look at you. Jean served as the club president in 1992-1993. He accepted the challenge, among other things, of chairing the steering committee that hosted the 2005 Rotary Large Club Conference here in Tulsa. A big job. Thanks, Jean. Bob Vassar. Bob was awarded our highest honor in 2000. Bob's service to the club went well beyond his years as president in 1979 and 1980. For example, in the early years before personal computing became commonplace, Bob formed the Rotary Computer Club. The group met regularly for 13 years, is that right? 13 years, it does not meet anymore, as Bob taught Rotarians the basics of personal computers, emailing, and exploring the internet, among other things. Ron Butler. Ron was awarded our highest honor in 2011. Service above self does not adequately describe the commitment of this Rotarian. Ron, who is an award-winning graphic designer and co-owner of a marketing communications firm, has donated thousands of hours designing club brochures, signs, banners, logos, awards, and graphics. Tim Caldwell. Tim was awarded our highest honor in 2012. During his year as club president in 2007 and 2008, Tim created the Above and Beyond Awards. For co-chairing the club's official Centennial project, the funding and installation of Rotary Plaza on Williams Center Green, he was honored with Leadership Tulsa's Paragon Award in 2013. He is the co-author of the club's Centennial book, 100 Years of Rotary in Tulsa, and he also co-chaired the club's year-long Centennial observance. Are there any other prior service above self winners who didn't sit up front? I don't want to miss anybody. All right, let's recognize our prior winners. Well, we're not done with this. We have a big surprise today. It's my honor and a great privilege to be able to announce that today another Rotarian is to receive our club's highest honor, the James G. Sade Service Above Self and Then Some Award. We have a certificate about this Rotarian that I'll read to the club in a moment, but to continue the drama, I'd like to say a few things about this Rotarian that aren't obvious, but I think are important. This Rotarian is a groundbreaker in the true sense of the word, both in life and in Rotary. This Rotarian demonstrates every day that what is in your heart shows in your words and your deeds. This Rotarian is a shining example of what Muhammad Ali meant when he said, "Service to others is the rent you pay for your room here on earth." If that's the case, then this Rotarian already has finished paying all the rent that could possibly be necessary, and this Rotarian's room on earth is fully paid, at least in my opinion. If I say anything more, I'll give it away. So, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in recognizing and honoring and welcoming to the stage our newest recipient of the Rotary Club of Tulsa's highest honor, the James G. Sade Service Above Self and Then Some Award, Linda Bradshaw. Now, Linda, you're going to make me cry. I'm a well-known sap, too.
I don't do this.
The certificate that I'll hand you in a minute says this, Linda. The Rotary Club of Tulsa, with sincere appreciation, presents to Rotarian Linda Bradshaw the James G. Sage Service Above Self and Then Some Award. A trailblazer in our club, Linda served as the first woman president while mentoring many women Rotarians who have gone on to serve in club leadership. For her years of service above self, leadership, chairing, among other things, the club's Centennial Celebration Committee, the Henry P. Iba Citizen Athlete Awards, the Crescendo Music Awards, and more, for her commitment to the club's international humanitarian water well drilling project, as evidenced by her many trips to Nicaragua. Is it 9, is that right? Something like that. For her deep personal interest in older members of our club with personal visits and fellowship, and we could have gone on, Linda, but we ran out of room on the certificate. There is so much more, but no room on the certificate to say it. You're certainly deserving, and it's an honor to be your fellow Rotarian and to be your friend.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a great honor. I have carried in my wallet since 2004 a picture of Jimmy Sage. My family knows that. I pull it out all the time and show people because I say this is a true Rotarian. This is what Rotary is all about. And I always wanted to live up to what Jimmy Sage wanted me to be when he said, I hope you're the first woman president in this club. And so I thank Jimmy Sage for everything that he's given to me as far as service above self and then some. I love this club and I love everything about it. We are special and I know that. I'm honored today with this award and I'm very honored. And my entire family has showed up and surprised me by being here today. I said goodbye to everybody today when I left for Rotary and I didn't know that they'd end up being here. So thank you so much for this very special honor. I'm very grateful.
While Linda is greeting her family, I'll move on to the next item in our agenda. I think it's important that we talk a little bit more about what Rotarian Bob McKenzie is up to. Bob has been up here a few times talking about the race across America, and he's left out a lot of important details, and I think the club needs to understand the magnitude of what he's doing. As you may be aware, Bob and the Team Rotary Rams, or Race Across America polio race, is underway. They will start on Saturday, June the 18th. Right now, Bob is headed to Oceanside, California to pick up other members of his team, 2 gentlemen from Austria, and I think they left this morning. The race starts on Saturday, as I told you a second ago. Bob is part of a 4-man team. The others are Randy Jackson from Jinx, Kurt Matzler from Austria, that's the other country, Austria, and Steve Schoonover from Utah. They have a crew of approximately 10, which includes our fellow Rotarian Eric Ortega and his wife Linda, Jack McGlumphy, our fellow Rotarian, and John Rain's son Justin, as well as Bob's wife Darlene. The crew also includes a gentleman named Meinhard Huber from Austria. Race Across America is one of the most respected and longest running endurance sports events in the world. It has a rich and storied history. It started in 1982 when 4 gentlemen individuals raced from the Santa Monica Pier near Los Angeles to the Empire State Building in New York City. So the 2016 race will be the 35th edition of Race Across America. As I indicated, this year it starts in Oceanside, California on Saturday. There is an individual group of people who are actually doing it by themselves that starts on the 14th. They started yesterday, but the teams start on Saturday. The route is 3,000 miles that Bob and his three teammates, total of 4, will ride. 170,000 feet of climbing. They'll cross 12 states, pass through 88 counties and 350 different communities. There, as I indicated, there are solo riders and there are 2 4- and 8-person relay teams. Interestingly, the Race Across America is one continual stage, similar to a time trial. They never stop riding, other than the individuals who decide they want to sleep a little bit. Once the clock starts, it does not stop, so they're trying to beat the clock. It's about 30% longer for perspective than Tour de France. Moreover, the racers must complete the distance in about half the time that's allowed for the Tour de France. The team racers, such as the team Bob is on, have a maximum of 9 days to finish. Most finish in about 7.5 days. As I understand it, they have a van, and while one rider is riding, the other 3 will be sleeping or resting, whatever is appropriate. The teams will ride somewhere between 350 and 500 miles every day, never stopping. Last year, there were 60 teams who did this. So, just for perspective, think about our fellow Rotarians who are in this group of 60, 70 teams that are riding continuously all the way across the country, starting on Saturday. If you want to follow along, Rotary RAM, R-A-A-M, has accounts on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I can't tell you more about how to do that, but you young folks especially will know how to follow. I really encourage you to do that. Next week, we're going to try, I don't know if it'll work, but we're going to try to get a FaceTime hookup with the crew and have them show us what's happening next Wednesday as they're hopefully well into their ride. So, Bob came up a few times during the course of the year and kind of told us about this, asked us to support him. I thought it was important that we all realize the magnitude of what he is doing, so when he gets back, we can really congratulate him. Now, this is all for supporting Rotary's effort to eradicate polio, as you probably know. So I encourage you to think again about giving a gift to the Rotary Foundation marked for Polio Plus. All right, Alicia, we've been missing you, and now we are excited to have a SARS segment.
I have to say, thinking about Bob riding a bicycle for 3,000 miles, I got a Fitbit recently, and I walked 3,000 steps in a day, and I was pretty impressed by that. So 3,000 miles is a lot to take in, so good job, Bob. So I have been gone for a couple weeks, and I missed you all very, very dearly. So we have a end of May happy birthday to Ray. He graciously contributed $250. Ray, I don't know if Ray's here today. I don't think I saw him. Happy birthday, Ray, and thank you. So you saw, I know John may not be here either. Justin, John's son, is out with Bob McKenzie and his group, and John graciously gave $100 towards RAM, the Race Across America, in honor of his son, who is in Wichita in the Air Force Reserves, and then his son Justin, who just recently finished 6 years with the Navy. So congratulations to them, and thank you very much. Last but not least, my precious pal, Bob Jack. I love Bob Jack very, very much, and his lovely, lovely wife. They just recently celebrated their 42nd wedding anniversary, so congratulations on that. And I managed to squeeze a couple extra dollars out of him, $25 for his candidacy for Senate District 25. 5 years for his time in Rotary, and $72 for the combination of his 2 children's birthdays in May, so $144. Thank you, Bob, very, very much. That's all I have for you. Hey, what do I have, 1 week left?
2
I gotta
weeks.
say, hold on here. When I started this, President Jeff and I kind of had a bit of a mutual understanding that I was not going to shake you down for money. Can everybody agree that I have not shooken anyone down for money? I will graciously ask on occasion, but we've tried to keep it fun, right?
No, we've tried to keep it fun, yes.
Okay, so having said that, I need money. Because if you'll remember, I set a really, 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 really lofty goal, which I think was attainable, but I had to beat Matthew Bristow's blown out of the water goal for last year. So I'm going to come up a little bit short if everyone doesn't kind of dig into their pocket. So you've got about 1 week to come up with something good. If nothing else, my birthday's in July. So if we want to celebrate it early and just pay some fines for my birthday, we can do that too. So that's all I got.
Thanks, Alicia.
You're welcome.
There is plenty of time for one of those big last-minute checks for Alicia, is what she's trying to say. It's my pleasure to introduce our Rotarian of the Day, Robert Babcock. Robert is Manager of Community Relations at Oklahoma Natural Gas. Robert is a fairly new Rotarian. He joined our club in February of this year, but he's made a big impression, and he's a positive addition, Pierce, and we're glad he's a good representative of your company, and we're glad to have him. Please welcome our Rotarian of the Day, Robert Babcock.
Well, thanks, President Jeff. I appreciate that very much. It truly is an honor for me to be able to even stand at this podium here, especially, Linda, with you. That was just really a great, setting a great example for us. I would like to introduce quickly a few of our guests from the company. From one guest sitting at this table right over here, we have Joe McCormick, Greg Phillips, James Torrey, Andrew Ziola, and Sid McAnally. And if you would give them a round of applause, they are a great addition to our company. And I appreciate the work they do. It's good to be a Rotarian in Tulsa, is it not? Would you agree? And I'm discovering, Alicia, that it's fun to be a Rotarian in Tulsa. Cool. It's cool. All right, the cool factor, hip factor. But we have the IBO Awards, service projects, the downtown's Centennial Monument, which I actually went across yesterday a couple of times. And we're daily living out the four-way test. Each of us has an opportunity, individually and collectively, to have direct impact on our community. We have the responsibility to be leaders, to lead by example. I and other new members, Andy included and Royal, have benefited joining this club under the current leadership of President Jeff, who I believe has led us well with courage and vision during his term and really has set up our incoming president for even better and greater success as a vital part of our community. Our collective leadership is needed now more than ever. One Gas is a Tulsa-based company who strives to be a community partner leader, and we are proud to call Tulsa home. As many other active and retired One Gas employees will attest, we get to be a part of an organization whose mission is to deliver natural gas for a better tomorrow. One Gas is an organization where you are encouraged to bring your authentic self to work and where the inclusion of our diversities matter, because each person and their talent, input, and engagement matters. Our success as a publicly traded natural gas distribution company can be attributed to a team of great company leadership, many of whom I've just introduced earlier, and Karen, of course, as well, with Katie. They invest in the employees to be better leaders. Leading our organization is Pierce Norton. A person of courage and vision, Pierce is the President and Chief Executive Officer of One Gas. One Gas operates natural gas distribution companies in 3 states, Kansas Gas Service, Texas Gas Service, and my personal favorite, Oklahoma Natural Gas. Prior to One Gas's separation from One Oak Inc., Pierce served as Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer of One Oak and One Oak Partners. I've heard Pierce talk about how much he and his wife Debbie enjoy living and being in Oklahoma, especially the Tulsa region. That said, Pierce is a proud native of Alabama, and even more proud graduate of the University of Alabama. Wait a minute. Now, as Southeast Conference or SEC competitors, come football season, he once told this proud University of Arkansas graduate, Robert, you do realize Arkansas is just a drive-through state to get to paradise. Roll Tide, right, Pierce? There you go. Yes, he is a leader, but he has a sense of humor and he's a whole lot of fun for us at One Gas. Please give a hearty and warm Rotarian welcome to a leader for leaders, you and me, Pierce Norton.
You know, with Robert being from Arkansas, you guys don't have any clue as how difficult it is for him to introduce me. So one of the things that I've had to do is learn how to hone my speaking skills. And so one of the techniques I've developed, I want to share with you today. If you notice, when I walked into the room, I had this large bottle of water. And so the first thing that I do is I drink a large bottle of water every time before I speak. And that guarantees that this speech will not last more than 20 minutes. So with that, the time clock is ticking, so good morning, and thank you for inviting me to come and visit with you today. It's a real honor. I know many of you in the room, and I know what a special group of people this is and what special people you are to Tulsa. And I understand that the Rotary Club here in Tulsa is actually one of the largest, not only in the nation, but in the world. I think there's something like 33,000 Rotary clubs around the world, and that's something I think to be extremely proud of. I know I know I'm proud of that. I'm proud to be in Tulsa, and I think you should be proud of that fact too. It's also good to be back in the Methodist church. I actually grew up in a small Methodist church in Alabama. My mom and dad made sure that I was there every single Sunday. I probably was not as focused as I should have been, but it wasn't because they didn't give me the opportunity. My wife, after we got married, of course, she grew up Baptist, so I'll give you two guesses where we go now. So today I want to share three things with you. I was asked to come and talk a little bit about the company, but when you get a microphone, you can talk about other things as well. So the three things I want to talk about a little bit is the spin-out story of One Gas. The second thing is that as a part of this spin-out, I was able to talk to several of the One Oak board members, and I asked them the question, if you were to give advice to a new CEO, what would that be? And then I asked all of them the same thing, and then they gave me their responses. I want to share those responses with you and some stories that actually kind of brought to mind when they were sharing that. And then the last thing is, I often get asked, what's the biggest thing that's been a positive surprise to you about the spin-out? And it's probably not what you think, so I want to talk about that a little bit. So first of all, let's get back to the spin-out story of One Gas. One Oak is a company that was founded in 1906. It is a part of Oklahoma. It's a major part of Oklahoma, and its founding assets in the company were Oklahoma Natural Gas, the distribution company that brings the natural gas to basically 850,000 households here in the state of Oklahoma. So to spin out that part of the business was something that was not an easy decision for the One Oak board. But when you look at it and you look at what size this part of the company was in comparison to what One Oak had grown into, which was a major midstream company in the United States, one of the largest in the United States, this piece of the business had become a smaller part of the business. And so when we got to visiting with investors and analysts, we constantly got the question about, well, why is it that you don't distribute more dividends to the shareholders? Well, part of it is because these kind of assets require investment. So we had to invest capital in those assets. And so that kind of started the thought process. We started analyzing this. It wasn't a quick decision. It was something that was studied over months and months and months before the decision was finally made to do something. So then we made the decision, got ready to spin it out. But as a new company, there's a lot of things that you don't think about that you need to do. You need to develop your vision and your mission statement. What is your strategy? And more importantly, can this company survive on its own? So the answer was we developed all those things. We looked at our competition, our peers, and quickly came to the conclusion that yes, this is a company that can stand on its own, and not only do that, but do very well on its own. So we started a road trip. We had to raise debt, and the right number was $1.2 billion. So we had to replace the debt that ONEOK had in this company. So we actually went across the United States, visited 9 different cities in a period of 14 days. But what was important about that is not only did we raise the debt, but we also generated interest in the equity, because when you spin out this company, those investors that do not want to own a utility, and I know you're probably thinking, well, who wouldn't want to own a utility, but there are people out there that don't want to own utilities. So as a result of that, when you have 206 million shares at ONEOK, you're going to have some people that when they get the ONEOK share, they're going to sell it. So we knew that was going to happen. We didn't know quite to what extent that would happen. But on day one, when we traded on the New York Stock Exchange, February 1st of 2014, we had 52 million shares outstanding, of which 9 million shares traded the first day that this stock was out on the open market. Now, normally, in a normal environment, that would crush your stock price. But our stock price actually went up that day. So I attribute that to many of the people that were at OneGas and ONEOK at the time, and especially this road tour that we did to increase the visibility and the story of this company. In fact, probably the best statement I've heard about the company was from an individual when he said, you know, what you really have here with this distribution company is a museum piece. And if you think about a museum piece, that's something that is unique. And what makes us unique is we are the only publicly traded company in the United States that's a distribution business that's 100% regulated. All the rest of the companies have something else in their business. They have construction companies, they have marketing companies, anywhere from 8 to 30% of their business is for some of this other stuff. But this is the only company that is 100% regulated. And for that, we have been rewarded. Our PE ratio is around 25 for those who study and care about PE ratios in the room. But it's very important to stay up there, and that's our biggest strategy, is to stay 100% regulated. So how have we done since we came out? Extremely well. Stock price initially started out at about $33 and change. We've had a little pullback today, but yesterday we hit another high of over $63. So the company has done extremely well, raising our dividends, first year 7%, second year 17%, and we have a target of doing 8 to 10% annual average for the next 5 years. So the company is well positioned, good balance sheet, and great people. So enough about the company, but I want to talk a little bit about these 3 things that these board members told me. So if you remember, my question was, and just to set this up a little bit, this came at the end of about an hour and a half of them asking me questions. So they asked me, what is it that you would like to ask us? I said, I have one question, but I'd like each of you to answer it. And so the question was, if you had advice to give to a new CEO, what would that advice be? So here's the 3 things that they told me. The first thing that they said was, do not hesitate to ask for help. Well, when people give you that kind of advice, the first thing you think about is, well, where in my past have I maybe not taken that advice, that I did not ask for help, and what was the outcome of that? So I have a little story for you. It's 1988. And my wife and I were in Corpus Christi, Texas. We had 3 children at the time. We had one that was 4, one that was 2, and one that's newborn. So you see a pattern there. And so it's 1988, and there is a hurricane that's developing in the Gulf of Mexico called Hurricane Gilbert. And at the time, it was supposed to go directly over Corpus Christi. It was a Category 5, so it's the largest that you could have. And if you saw a satellite picture at that time, you saw that this hurricane basically engulfed the entire Gulf of Mexico, and there's a little bitty small eye out there in the middle. So at the time, I was extremely dedicated to my job, and I probably wasn't doing some of the things that I should be doing as a father and as a husband. But I was out building pipelines between an area called Laredo and Freer in South Texas. So it was very important to our company that we get this pipeline stuff in and up and operational. So that's where my main focus was. So it's basically 3 days before the hurricane is supposed to hit. I'm still out there working in the field. So my wife calls me and she said, I don't know if she said honey, but she said something like that. She said, well, what are we going to do about this hurricane? I said, well, I've got a plan. 24 hours before it hits, we're going to pack up and we're all going to leave Corpus. And she said, well, what do we need to do to prepare the house? And I said, well, what's the neighbors doing? Because these people have been there, in Corpus Christi for years. So what are they doing? And she said, well, so far I can't see anything other than it looks like they're kind of packing up their cars, so they're probably going to leave too. And so that day went by. So what I do, I go back to work the next day, again out in the Freer area. And she calls me again, and she goes, when you asked me that question, what is it that the neighbors are doing? She said, I've got an update for you. She says, so the next door neighbor, he comes out and with these custom-made plywood boards, and he bolts them into his brick. And they're all numbered, so a strong indication that he had done this before. And then the other neighbor pushes a button on his house, and his entire house comes down with metal shutters over every window that he has. I hadn't even noticed that there were metal shutters up there. And by this time, I knew there wasn't anything I was going to be able to say that's going to rectify this situation, except I said, honey, I'm coming home. So I showed up. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, so now it's 48 hours before this thing's supposed to hit. And I said, I'll go down to Home Depot, and I will make those boards, and I will put them over all the windows. So I showed up at Home Depot 48 hours before the hurricane is supposed to hit, and it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and the line's out the door. And so I get in line, and we're inching along, and then this lady walks out, and she has 2 pieces of plywood. And I said, ma'am, if you don't mind me asking, how long did it take you to get that plywood? She said, I got here at 7 a.m. this morning. So, and I said, well, if you don't mind, where was the line about 7 a.m. this morning? She said, about where you were standing. And so I did some quick math. Robert didn't say I'm a mechanical engineer, so I like math. And so I figured, well, about 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning, I'm going to have to go out. I'm going to get back with my plywood. I said, well, did you only need 2 pieces of plywood? And she said, no, that's all they'll give you. And so it wasn't any use to stand in line anymore. So I went home, and now it's time to have confession. And so, and I'm not Catholic, but I tried my best. And so I sit down, and I said, honey, I've really messed up. We're not going to be in good shape here. If this hurricane hits, there probably won't be a window left in our house. And at that time, something spoke to me and said, you know what, look out the window. And I looked out the window, and I saw my wood fence out there. And I sized it up and said, you know what, I think that wood fence will go perfectly over my house. And so I got the tape measure out. I went out there and measured it, and sure enough, it was exactly the right, it had 1 inch on both sides of the window. So I took every plank down of my wood fence, and I nailed it up one by one over the top of those windows. Now, we had an old wood fence, so needless to say, it didn't look real attractive when I did this. It looked like somebody had abandoned this house for years. In fact, my neighbors nicknamed that house Fort Apache after that. So the rest of the story was that 2 weeks before that, before there was ever any mention of a hurricane, one of my neighbors came up to me and said, we have hurricanes around here, and if you ever need any help, you let me know, and I'll help you. So what was my answer? No, don't need any help, okay? So that was the first story that I thought about when I got the advice, don't ever hesitate to ask for help. The second thing was to always do the right thing, no matter how difficult and follow your gut. So again, this goes back to one of my stories about my family. We were in Tyler, Texas. This was right after we had graduated from college. We'd been there for about 2.5 years. At the time, we only had 2 kids. And so I had been transferred to Dallas. And so I had been working in Dallas every day and driving back and forth on the weekends. And so one day I was in a meeting, came back to my office, and there was one of these pink notes, telephone notes that we all get, is on my desk. And it says, "Please call home, kid ate poison." And so when I called home, I got a guy, my house, I got a guy that I work with. So the first thing I'm thinking about is, he's there, you know, what happened to the kid? Are they in the hospital? Where are they? And so the rest of this story is that in our industry, we work with natural gas that sometimes has an element to it called hydrogen sulfide, which is a poisonous gas. And so we actually test for that through something called a dragger tube. Well, a dragger tube is a small tube that is clear, and it has these blue beads on the inside of it. And so it looks a lot like a pixie stick. So I used to carry these things around in my trunk so that we could tell what was going on. Well, when I got transferred, I knew I wasn't going to be testing for H2S in a high-rise in Dallas, Texas, so I took them out, did the smart thing, just laid them out in the garage. Well, our 2-year-old had taken those out, and my wife walks outside, and she sees him standing there with this little stick, and all the beads are kind of on the floor. So we didn't know if he broke it and ate it or exactly what had happened. Well, this was before something called material safety data sheets, so we didn't know what to do. So the people that I work with in Tyler, Texas, had actually called Germany where it was made. So I know this was a serious situation, but it had to have been comical to sit there and listen to a bunch of Texans ask a bunch of Germans, you know, what it is that we need to do about this pixie stick. So they ended up telling us, basically don't do anything, because it had something called copper acetate in it, and once you ingest it, you don't want to bring it back up the same direction. So they said, don't do that. Don't make them. But here's where the quote comes in that ties into this quote. The CEO of the Draeger company wrote my wife and son and myself a letter apologizing for this incident. Now, he didn't have anything to do with it. It was my stupidity for laying this thing in the garage. But he wrote a letter to me apologizing and actually expressing remorse for this happening to our son. So that's the first thing that I thought of, and I actually have a picture of it here. Here's the 2-year-old, and he sent him a hat and a T-shirt along with the letter. And I can guarantee you, so those of you who are attorneys in the room, I know, Jeff, you're an attorney, you would not have told that CEO to send that letter. But somewhere along the line, somebody told him to always do the right thing, no matter how difficult, and to follow your gut. So his gut told him, here's a kid that ate one of these tubes, no matter what the reason, and I as a CEO need to express concern for that. The third thing was to listen and communicate. You only get one chance to make a first impression. So when I thought about this, I will say at this point, there's some of my material is original, but some material is things that I've heard or read somewhere else. So I plagiarized this story from somewhere. I just can't give the right person the credit because I don't remember where I either read it or heard it, but it's a good story. So the first one and both of these stories about kindergartners. The first one is that there was a kindergarten teacher, had her class there, and she asked them to take out a piece of paper and draw anything that they wanted to do. And so she's walking around the room asking kids, well, what are you drawing? What are you drawing? So she comes up to this little girl named Emma. And she said, Emma, what are you drawing? And she looks up at the teacher and she said, I'm drawing God. And the teacher said, well, Emma, nobody knows what God looks like. And Emma said, well, if you'll wait a few minutes, they will. The second story was also about a kindergartner. And as you know, we all have seen these before, but you have the reenactment of the manger scene and the three wise men coming up, and most of the time kindergartners do this. Well, if you'll remember, the order is that the wise men came in and they said, we bring you gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And often, as kindergartners will do, they'll get out of order. And so these kindergartners get up, and the first kid gets up and said, I bring you gold. And the second kid gets up and says, I bring you myrrh. And the third kid gets up and says, Frank sent this. So that's what I thought about when they said to listen and communicate. You only get one chance, to make a first impression. And what was important, I think, to note about this is somewhere at an early age, we have courage that we don't have as adults. And so that's the other kind of nuance to this quote is some way go back to our childhood so that we can get some of that courage because we weren't afraid to fail. So, and the last thing is actually a quote that I kind of developed myself, or at least I claim it. I probably heard this from somebody else too, but it's leaders do not experience the future, but the people that they influence do. And I think that's very appropriate for Rotarians because of the service nature of this business, of this entity, of this group. You are influencing people. And I can't think of a better way to have an influence on others than to serve others. And so think about that quote again. Leaders do not experience the future, but the people that they impact do. So you are having an impact on people that you may not even know you're having an impact on with what you do in this organization. So the last thing, and in closing, is I often get asked, what is it that kind of is the most pleasant surprise for you? And a lot of people think, well, I'd say something about the stock price going up or how people have embraced the new logo or anything that we have, but it's actually the lights on our building. When we started and thinking about, I can remember there's a small group of us, we're looking out my window, we're looking over at the First Place Tower, and we saw these louvers up on the top of the building and said, wouldn't it be nice if this new old company, in the Tulsa area were to do something that would redefine the skyline of Tulsa. And so we said, well, let's put some lights up there. And so, well, what are the lights going to be a symbol of? And we said, well, the best symbol for our industry is actually the blue flame on your stove. In fact, studies tell us that is the most powerful brand that the natural gas industry has, is the actual flame that you see on the stove. And so we said, well, we're going to turn it blue, and if we can make them flicker a little bit, that'll even be better. And so here at the 41st level in Tulsa, Oklahoma, will be a blue flame at the top of this building. So that's what really started the lights. But what we found is it's grown into so much more because we asked the question, well, what else can you do with them? Can you turn them any other colors? Well, yeah, I'll turn them any colors you want to. So we have now made this something that is a message. It's no political statements. It's just a message of what our core values are about, which is about safety. It's about respect, inclusion and diversity, for our community, for our company, and for our business. And so we get more comments. People don't come up and ask me why their gas bill's going up. They don't come up and ask me about gas prices. They do come up and ask me about those lights. And they ask me, which I'm an advertisement, I guess, for the electric company, which is our strongest competitor, but I think it's still a great symbol for the city of Tulsa and for our company And we have now kind of become known brand-wise as much for our lights, probably as what we actually do to service our community for natural gas. So I'll be glad to answer any kind of questions that you guys have. I don't know, okay. So hopefully I was about 20 minutes. It's feeling like 20 minutes. Any questions from the crowd? Yes?
Your building that's in the middle of that picture right there, it's designed, I guess, to go taller, is it? Has anybody talked about that? And are you the sole occupant of your building?
We are not. I'll take kind of, so the question was, are we the sole occupant of the building? Is the building designed to go taller? We actually occupy just a little bit over 20% of that building. So if you go back to looking at the building we came out of, which was the One Oak building, the footprint of the One Oak building is almost 3 times the size of the footprint of this one. So we didn't occupy as many floors in the One Oak building as we do in this one, but we occupy basically 12 floors in this building, so just a little bit over 20%. I'm not sure about the ability to go higher. I will say the One Oak building, though, was designed to go higher. It goes way down in the, below the surface, and I think they stopped at basically 18, 19 floors, but it was designed to go much higher than that. So I would think if there's going to be any expansion on a building anywhere, probably on the One Oak building as opposed to this one. So, yes. I get that question a lot. So if you look at, if anybody follows the utility business right now, you realize basically how expensive these properties are. There have been 3 companies that have sold, meaning that we would need to go buy somebody else, that's in another state. Those 3 companies that sold for 26% premium, 36% premium, 46% premium. So with us having so much built-in capital needs to replace the systems that we have from a system integrity and reliability standpoint, we don't really need to do that. We can grow this company for years and years and years without having to go out and basically pay a premium. Now, if those assets were to come down in price, yeah, we'd be interested in that, because part of our strategy is to get to be absolutely the best operating company in the United States, and if you can achieve that, then you can replicate that in another company. But there's not really, so what happens when you pay that premium? You don't get to collect on that, and you're issuing more debt, more equity, so it actually becomes dilutive to your existing shareholders. So we don't, we look at those kind of things, but we don't really put a whole lot of time into that until the prices come down a little bit. Okay. Anything else? Thank you very much.
Learned a lot today. Thank you, Pierce, very much. Pierce, a book recognizing today's program will be given to our partner in education school, Celia Clinton Elementary, in lieu of a speaker's gift, and we'd love it if you'd inscribe a little message in there for the kids. We give one book every week to the library there, and it's been a great legacy to our current and past Rotarians that we've done that. I encourage everyone here to thank our volunteers who made the program possible today. Their names are up on the screen. It takes a lot of people to put one of these programs together. And as I do every week, I encourage you to go out and tell your family, friends, and colleagues about Rotary and tell them about Pierce Norton and One Gas. We're adjourned.